Hello friends and welcome to another episode of Cycling Insider. In this episode I have something special for you. If you want the best carbon fiber frames and forks on the market, there is only one brand you need to consider, and that's TIME Bicycles. You see, their carbon fiber frames and forks are absolutely in the league of their own, and nobody comes even close to the quality of carbon frames and forks from TIME Bicycles. So, in this episode, I will give you the buyer's guide for the TIME ADHX gravel bike, and definitely at the end I will give you my opinion, should you just go ahead and buy it or should you just consider it. But first question we need to answer, why is it that the best carbon fiber frames and forks are made by TIME Bicycles? And there are a few main reasons. Reason number one is that TIME's quality control is absolutely outstanding, like nothing else in the bike industry. Second reason is that the TIME was the first to utilize the so-called braided carbon structure, and that simply means that they have a special way of weaving of the dry carbon fibers into a complex bidirectional socks. And once when you have these kind of bidirectional socks, it's very easy to produce full carbon frames and forks. You can watch this video on their website. It is super interesting to see these huge weaving machines and how they make these bidirectional so-called socks. And the third reason is that TIME Bicycles is the first one to use the so-called resin transfer molding, and this technology allows them to basically remove all the air pockets and voids which can be found inside the carbon frames. Also, specifically when you look at their gravel road bikes, I would almost call them gravel/endurance road bikes. They are also the first to use so-called Bio-Based Dyneema fibers, which are much kind of lighter and stronger than the classical kind of braided carbon structures. Okay, so as I was saying, in this episode, I will give you the buyer's guide for the TIME's ADHX gravel road bike. ADHX basically stands for Alpe X. So it's their nomenclature for the gravel road bike, and as I'm saying, I would almost call this bike gravel/endurance road bike. So even you ask the question, who is this bike for? As I said, I would call it endurance/gravel road bike, so a bit more relaxed geometry, definitely designed for the long days in the saddle, and definitely you can use this bike to attack some gravel roads. Nothing, too demanding like the cross-country mountain bike trails. This is mostly gravel roads, so you like to combine your road bike with the kind of gravel bike, then this is the definitely bike for you. Specifically, this build is gonna be the SRAM rival ETAP build, and the retail price of this bike is $6,300 US. Also, when you look at the paint schemes on this bike, TIME is offering three paint schemes. The first one is this beautiful gloss amber paint scheme. Then we have the so-called gloss forest paint scheme, very classical metallic green, beautiful. We have a gloss cobalt paint scheme, and also the gloss carbon paint scheme. Definitely there's four paint scheme options to choose from, which is absolutely stunning, and probably in my opinion this gloss amber paint scheme is just stunning. But again, it's really great that when the retail price is $6,300 US, you get four paint schemes to choose from. Of course, I have to mention here that $6,300 US is, expensive bike, but as I always say, if you want top of the line, creme de la creme, carbon fiber frames and forks, there's nothing out there on the market like TIME. And this is what you are basically paying for. Because if you would go ahead and just buy the carbon frame and fork, you would pay $3,800 US for this carbon frame and the fork. So just keep that in mind, how top-notch quality that is. Okay, so now we can dive into the specifications of this gravel/endurance bike and really see what you get for your hard-earned money. As always, we are kicking off with the frame and the fork specification. So the frame is a carbon fiber frame combined with this Dyneema fibers, and also it has the forged carbon dropouts. Fork, carbon fiber fork combined with Kevlar fibers, and again forged carbon dropouts. I will mention here that the tire size, maximum tire size, although it says here 38 millimeters tire, I see in the specifications that you can fit a 40 millimeter tire on this frame and the fork. Also, of course, it's for the flat mount disc brakes, 12 millimeter through axles. You can run a mechanical group set, you can run an electronic group set, and the press fit bottom bracket basically is the BB386 shell. Definitely there's not going to be any creaking noises here because, as I say, quality control of TIME bicycles is out of the scale, so it's absolutely excellent. As you also know, you are getting a lifetime warranty on this carbon frame and the fork, so everything is perfectly fine, and definitely TIME will stand behind the quality of their carbon frames and the forks. Now we can dive into the specifications of this bike and just see the components that you are getting. So let's kick off with the handlebar and the stem. So the handlebar is the Deda Gravel 100 aluminum handlebar, and the stem is the Deda Superbox stem. Both these pieces are aluminum pieces, but excellent part here is that nothing is proprietary. Standard pieces, easy to replace, easy to upgrade, easy to get your position on the bike, and these are aluminum pieces, but again, don't worry about that, it's going to work perfectly fine. And also, I wouldn't even bother upgrading this in the future to carbon pieces because these aluminum are totally fine. Saddle that you are getting here is the Repente Kazar saddle. I've never used this saddle, so I can't comment too much. If you like it, great. If not, saddles are a personal preference, and it's always very easy to replace the saddle, so that's definitely not a problem. Now let's look at the seat post. So the seat post is the Deda 02, 27.2 millimeter seat post, but unfortunately this is an aluminum seat post. I'm not sure why TIME didn't include carbon fiber seat post, so this would be my advice to you immediately to buy yourself a carbon fiber seat post. There's so many good manufacturers out there, because the carbon fiber seat post is just going to soak up so many of the smaller road bumps. So this is a bit of a negative side of this whole package, and I really can't understand why TIME just didn't include the carbon fiber seat post on this bike. The braking system on the bike comes from SRAM, so this is a SRAM Rival hydraulic disc brakes, 160 millimeter braking rotors front and the back, and these are the SRAM Paceline center lock rotors. Everything fine here, the braking system is going to work perfectly fine, and again, I am glad that they are including 160 millimeter rotors, just because of the better heat dissipation and stopping power than the small 140 rotors. Also, I would suggest you here in the future, when you destroy these braking rotors and the pads, definitely stick to the SRAM Paceline or any other SRAM lineup of braking rotors, just because of the compatibility with the hydraulic disc brakes. Now let's look at the full group set. So from the shifters, front mech and the rear mech, in this case you are getting a SRAM Rival ETAP Access group set. So this is the wireless 12-speed group set in this case. It's an excellent wireless group set from SRAM. Everybody who has used it definitely likes it. There's no special problems here, so it's going to work perfectly fine. I will just mention here that the crankset, again, is the SRAM Rival crankset, 4835 chain rings, and it is paired with the SRAM's cassette, XG cassette, and this is a 1036 cassette. So you have a huge range of gears here. Definitely climbing any steep mountains, you can easily do it, and going, gravel riding, you can easily do it. With this cassette in the future, just keep in mind when you need to replace it, it's an item that usually can cost $130, so definitely not a cheap item, and this is something you gotta keep in mind with the SRAM cassette. And again, I would advise you to stick with the SRAM cassette, 12-speed cassette, whichever you use, just because of the compatibility. Also, the chain here is the SRAM's Rival chain, again, no cutting corners here. And I will just mention here that, as I was saying, the BB press fit bottom bracket is the SRAM Dub press fit bottom bracket standard. There should be no creaking noises here on any of the bearings and bottom bracket, because, as I say, the quality control of TIME is absolutely top notch. Now let's look at the wheel set and the tires. So the wheel set is from Head, and we are talking about here about Head Emporia wheel set. I am assuming this is the performance wheel set with the retail price of approximately 700 British pounds, and definitely this wheel set has certain highlights, which are like It is an aluminium wheel set, so classical aluminium wheel set with the hooked rim type. Of course, this wheel set is tubeless ready, but I believe you will need to provide your own tubeless tape and the tubeless valves. The rim height is 24 millimeters, and the internal rim width, which is very nice, is 25 millimeters. I will mention here that this wheel set, of course, is for the center lock disc brakes, and the hubs on the wheel set are from Head. They're Head GP Performance hubs. Also 12mm through axles, in this case front and the back, 24 spokes front and the back, and these are Sapim Sprint spokes, perfectly fine. And I will just mention here that the total weight of this wheel set is 1,670 grams. I consider this a very good wheel set weight, since this is a classical aluminium wheel set from Head. This wheel set also comes with the 5 years warranty from Head, which is very nice, and this wheel set is wrapped in the Goodyear tires. In this case, it's a Goodyear Connector Ultimate tire, tubeless ready tire, and this is a 40C 40mm tire. So excellent high volume tire, and it's really gonna contribute to the smoothness of the ride. Definitely in the future, if you are replacing these tires, I would always suggest you to stick with the 38mm or 40mm tires, just because of a lot of air volume in that tire. So now, in a summary, when you look at this TIME ADHX in the SRAM Rival ETAP build with a retail price of $6,300, what is my advice to you? My advice is very easy and straightforward. If you got the money, just go ahead and buy this bike. You definitely won't be disappointed, because, as I say, if you want top of the line, creme de la creme, carbon fiber frames and forks, this is it. TIME Bicycles does it the best, and that's why this bike costs $6,300, where if you would buy just this frame set and the fork, frame and the fork on the open market, you would pay $3,800. So all in all, as I say, just go for it. It's an excellent bike from TIME. So I think this is going to be it for today. I hope you like what I'm doing, and if you do, keep on watching, keep on liking, and as always, I will see you soon in the next episode. Cheers!